This is a fast charger I bought for my phone, and this is a regular charger I bought from the gas station. But here's the thing, they cost me the same amount of money and they both call themselves fast chargers. Even still, this charger is great while this one sucks. But why? What's actually different about these two chargers? And more importantly, how do you know which one to buy? See, this all started 2 years ago when I bought my first fast charger. But when I went to try it out, it charged my phone even slower than my old regular charger. And the scary part is, it had great reviews.
Wow!
And sure, the specs were nonsense, but so is every other charger on Amazon. So, turns out, it's actually pretty hard to tell the difference between a good and bad charger. So I dived deeper. I looked into everything there is to know about fast charging. And I found 3 key things you need to look for next time you're buying a fast charger. In this video, I'll explain all of them in detail. And I'll even break down what each of these 3 things physically means inside the chargers themselves. And in my research, I found some people saying you shouldn't be using fast charging at all because it could hurt your phone. We'll talk about that too, because those people aren't completely wrong. When you charge your phone, there's a certain amount of power going from the charging brick itself to the connector that plugs into the charging brick, to your charging port, to your battery. This power is measured in something called wattage. For example, this iPhone 17 supports 40 watts of charging. Let's see if we can figure out which of these 3 chargers would be the best choice for this phone. I'm actually gonna use my phone's camera here to show you up close. The first charger gives 12 watts. The second charger gives 35 watts. And the third charger, 45 watts. So which one should I use? Well, 45 watts is the biggest, but remember, we're dealing with power here. Isn't it dangerous to pump more wattage into your phone than it can handle? Well, to answer that, we'll need to understand what wattage actually means. Okay, so we know wattage measures power, but what is power? Well, power is made up of 2 different parts, voltage and amperage. Now, voltage is how strong the electricity is, while amperage is the amount of electricity. For example, imagine this water bottle is actually full of electricity. And when I turn the water bottle upside down, electricity pours out. Now, to increase the volts, right, the voltage, I can push the bottle in, forcing electricity to come out faster. And to increase the amps, or the flow rate, I can cut a wider opening, allowing more electricity to flow through. As you can tell, whether you increase the voltage or the amperage, electricity is going to come out faster. And that is the basic principle, right? If you increase the voltage or you increase the amperage, either way, that's going to lead to an increase in wattage or power. In fact, the math is very simple. Voltage times amperage equals wattage. So imagine this current on the left is 5 volts, 1 amp, or 5 watts, while this current is 5 volts, 10 amps, or 50 watts. "50 watts wins every time. So instead of asking, is it dangerous to use a charger that uses too many watts, let's split it up into 2 questions. First, is it dangerous to use too many volts? Second, is it dangerous to use too many amps? Let's start with amps. Back to our water bottle analogy. Imagine your phone charger as a funnel. Whether you pour in 1 amp of electricity or 10 amps of electricity, your charger will only take the amount of electricity it can handle. So too many amps? Totally fine. It will not hurt your phone. But volts, those are a different story. If I increase the volts beyond the pressure that our little phone charger can handle, then our funnel breaks. Our device stops working. So too many volts is bad. No go. Oops, I accidentally colored that question mark as well. There we go. Except there's one thing I haven't told you yet. See, over the last couple decades, many people didn't care to learn about volts or amps, which means a lot of people use the wrong chargers, breaking their gaming controllers, speakers, mouses permanently. Imagine your gaming controller. See if I can draw a little gaming controller here. Oh yeah. Imagine your gaming controller only supports a 5 volt, 5 amp charge. But you try charging it, here's the charger here, with a 10 volt, 5 amperage charger. Back in the day, if you tried this, your gaming controller, well, let's just say it wouldn't like it, to say the least. So we finally came up with a solution, USB-C. Now I have a whole video on many of the reasons that USB-C is great, but one of the reasons is that it can control how much volts and amps it gives out when plugged into a device. And you can actually see this by comparing an older charger with a modern USB-C charger. Here, I'll pull out my phone again so that this is easier to see. Okay, so notice on the old charger, we have one output, 5 volts and 1000 milliamps. Now granted, this is an incredibly small charger. Let's see if I have another one here. Okay, here's one that's a little bit more, 5 volts, 2.4 milliamps. That's about 12 watts. Now let's compare this charger. This is the 45 watt charger, but notice under output here, we've got 5 volts, 3 amps, 9 volts, 3 amps, and then it continues right down here. 15 volts, 3 amps, and so on. The charger has a ton of different options for the cable to pick from, which is super convenient because you can pretty much plug this into any device you could possibly want without having to worry about it breaking or really melting. So which charger is the best? The answer goes to the 45 watt charger after all. But that's just the charging block itself. What about the cable? Well, this is where a lot of people mess up, including me. Remember earlier when I said I bought a brand new super fast charger and it charged my phone slow? Well, here's what I didn't tell you. The charging brick was a very nice 30 watt charger by Anker, perfect for charging my 27 watt iPhone 14 at the time. And it cost a premium 30 bucks. But then I cheaped out and bought this cable, the cheapest charging cable I could find, for $2. Here is the exact charging cable I bought. Now, as you can see, it's actually 3 cables, and also you can see it's currently unavailable, probably because it was a scam. But I promise you this cost $6. And I bet you can find something very similar on Amazon today. These listings go up and down all the time. But in my defense, the reviews, they were very good. Look at that. 4.2 stars, 1,005 reviews. Now, all of this down here, this is all slop. It means nothing. So like I said at the beginning of the video, ordering the cable can be especially tricky because there's not nearly as many standards that manufacturers need to list out. So they fluff it up with all this slop. But don't worry, because I have 5 tricks you can use to tell the difference between a good cable and a bad cable. Okay, tip number 1. The connector type. Now there's 2 connectors you have to worry about, right? First, you have the side that connects into your phone. And as you know, this is either going to be a USB-C, or if you have an older iPhone, a lightning cable. And then there's the side that plugs into your charging brick. Now this needs to be USB-C as well. So if you're using anything like this charger, which as you can see has a USB-A port, abandon it, get rid of it immediately. You gotta get one that has a USB-C. It's just gonna charge way faster. So no matter what, you're gonna either wanna get a USB-C to USB-C, or again, if you have an older iPhone, a USB-C to Lightning. If you're using anything other than this, then you are just automatically not getting the fastest charging speeds possible. Or God forbid, if you're using the USB ports in your couch or end table, these ports are always gonna charge your phone very slowly. Never use them. Tip number 2, cable lengths. So in general, the longer the cable, the slower the charge. In general, I would say to make sure your cable is under 6 feet long or under 2 meters. And if you want the fastest charging speeds possible, I would go even shorter, like less than 3 feet or 1 meter. Okay, I'll say less than or equal to. Okay, so 3 feet or shorter, That's gonna give you the fastest speeds possible. I don't think that's necessary. You can still get very fast charging with 6 feet or smaller, but please, 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 please avoid anything bigger than that, because it's just not going to be able to charge your phone as fast. A longer cable just cannot carry the same charge as a very short cable can. Actually, I want to show you something. Okay, now this is just kind of because I think it's funny, but check out how short this cable is. I don't know what this cable is rated for, but I bet you can get a pretty fast charge off this thing. Okay, you don't have to go that intense. Tip number 3, listing the wattage. Another huge red flag of poorly made cables is when they don't list their wattage in the Amazon listing. In fact, take a look at the specs page for that bad cable that I bought, that I showed you earlier. Okay, here it is. This is a screenshot of the specs page. You notice anything missing? They don't list any supported wattage at all. Huge red flag. So always make sure when you're buying a cable that it lists the wattage. Very simple tip for you there. Tip number 4, you might hate me for this one, but brand name. Okay, so for some products, I admit brand name is not the way to go. For example, like I talked about in my Rubik's Cube video, the Chinese knockoff Rubik's Cubes are always better than the on-brand Rubik's Cubes. Rubik's brand is not a brand you should buy ever. But with charging cables, I would recommend not cheaping out. I've said it a few times now, but I would highly recommend the brand Anker. They make great products, they're super honest with what their chargers are capable of, and frankly, nobody's checking these listings, right? Like, back to the listing I talked about earlier. The reason this thing has such amazing reviews is because all of these people don't realize the charger is actually charging their phone really slow. Most people don't know what charging speeds their phone is capable of having. And the moral of the story is nobody's checking these listings to make sure they're accurate. If you don't want to be disappointed, just buy brand name cables. Okay, and tip number 5, charging standards. Now hold up, this is not just tip number 5. This is actually the whole entire 3rd section of this video. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But first, let's put our new knowledge to the test. Okay, here I have the listing for the bad cable that we already talked about before, and I have the listing for a potentially good cable. We'll find out. Now, to make it fair, I'm using USB-C to Lightning cables for both examples. It's actually a little bit easier to find good cables that are USB-C to USB-C, but the concept is still the same. So first, let's check the length of both cables. So starting off with the bad cable, immediately I can see 10 foot. Big red flag. Immediately I'm out. Okay, but let's check the other cable. And this one has a few options. Okay, we've got 1 foot, 3 foot, 6 foot, and 10 foot. I'm avoiding the 10-foot one, but the other 3 are good. Okay, so now let's scroll down and take a look at the specs. Again, let's start with the bad cable. And yeah, like I said earlier, no wattage listed whatsoever. Another huge red flag. If the 10-foot thing didn't already sway me away, no, immediately I'm out again. But what else does it say? Well, funnily enough, it actually lists fast charging as a special feature. That's actually a little bit of a red flag in itself, because fast charging is just a marketing term, right? It's not a standard or anything. You could literally market any charger as having fast charging, even if it's the slowest charger in the world. And then all the rest of this stuff is just nonsense. I mean, this is nonsense too. It's all nonsense. So let's check the good cable, or potentially good cable. Right off the bat, great sign, right? We have the exact wattage listed. Now this is 27 watts, which sounds kind of low, but actually if you have a phone that uses a Lightning charger, 27 watts is the highest wattage it could possibly support. So 27 watts is actually perfectly great. As for the rest of this though, it's all slop. None of this matters at all. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is the big problem when trying to buy a charger. There's just slop. It's all slop. Like, I challenge you to find a cable on Amazon that doesn't just have a bunch of nonsense under its features and specs. Now, actually, if you look in this segment here, right underneath the listing, you can actually spot, if you're very keen-eyed, right here in the middle of this wall of slop, they do list out the wattage. 5 volts, 2.4 amps. That is the maximum it can support. Now, we looked at a charger that had that earlier. To do the math for you, that equals 12 watts. So no wonder this charger made my phone charge so slow. But okay, that is not all. We have one more trick you need to know about when buying a fast charger, and that is charging standards. Charging standards. So just like everything else in tech, there are standards for charging. And just like every other standard in tech, they're needlessly confusing. So if you have an Apple phone or an Android phone or Pixel phone or Qualcomm phone or OnePlus phone, whatever kind of phone you have, it's probably gonna have its own unique charging standard. And guys, this step is really the key to why you don't actually need to buy your charger directly from the phone company itself. Like, I don't need to buy an Apple charger to get the fastest charge possible. I just need to make sure I have a charger that supports the Apple charging standard. So first, if you have an iPhone, you're gonna be using USB PD. Make myself a little bit more room here. Otherwise known as USB power delivery. That can't be how you spell delivery. What did I do wrong? Delivery. Now this is actually a pretty basic standard that most USB cables will already have. It's actually a standard defined by USB themselves, not Apple. Thanks, Apple. But if it were me, I would still make sure that the charging block said it was USB PD certified. It's just a really nice stamp of quality that you know for absolute certain it's gonna work. Next, if you have most of the modern Android phones, pretty much anything from like a Galaxy S20 or later, or a Google Pixel phone, yeah, these are actually the same category, then you want to make sure you have a PPS certified charger. Now this stands for Programmable Power Supply. And actually, whether you have an Android phone or an Apple phone, I would recommend finding a charger that has both USB PD and PPS support. And there's a few reasons for that. First of all, you want your charger to work with a variety of phones, right? If you have a friend that comes over or if you ever switch to an Android phone, you want to make sure your charger works the best. Secondly, it's again just a great stamp of quality if your charger, like this one, lists out USB PD and PPS. Actually, what's funny is if you look at this one, we'll just do this one more time. If you look closely at this one, you can see where they list out the PPS charging speeds as well. And like I said, most modern Android phones support PPS. If you have something that's kind of a weird, not really a flagship Android phone, you might want to look it up just to double check. Qualcomm Quick Charge is another standard used by a lot of phones. So it's called Qualcomm Quick Charge. And they're actually really helpful. They have a document that lists out all the supported phones for you, linked below. Some examples include Black Shark phones, Red Magic phones, there's a whole ton of them. Keep in mind though, there are different levels of Qualcomm Quick Charge. Make sure you're using the highest level possible that your phone supports. And again, it's really just the charging block that you need to make sure about here, or the brick. The cable, pretty much every USB-C cable should run Qualcomm Quick Charge just fine. It's the brick you need to make sure is certified. Now, OnePlus phones, they use something called the Warp Charge standard. And this is a weird one because unlike the others, you're probably going to need to buy brand name for this. And by brand name, I mean OnePlus brand name, because you need a special charging brick that pretty much only OnePlus is going to make. And you need a special charging cable that again, only OnePlus is really making. Now the good news is OnePlus phones come with the charger and charging brick already. So you should have at least one fast charger from the get-go. Apple, take notes. And guys, there are more. There are so many more, okay? If you have a phone that's not on this list, then you're like 1% of the people watching this right now. Probably less than 1%, let's be real. If you have that weird of a phone, just look it up, okay? But why are there so many charging standards? And why does Warp Charge need a special cable when PPS doesn't? Isn't it all just volts and amps like we talked about? I mean, what could possibly be that different among all of these phones? Well, to understand that, we need to talk about why fast charging took so long to build in the first place and why people think it's dangerous. So let's answer the question once and for all. Is fast charging dangerous? Remember what I said at the start of this video? There are some good reasons to be concerned or worried about using fast charging. So imagine this is your phone. Let's just make it look a little bit more like a phone. Okay, this is your phone and this is your battery. Now let's take a fast charger. Imagine this is your fast charger. Bloop. And this is just pumping all sorts of electricity up into your phone. Well, pumping that much electricity into your phone, that's going to cause a lot of heat. And all that heat, that's going to hurt your battery, your poor little battery. But don't worry, because charging standards are here to save the day. Charging standards is what makes this possible and safe. So for example, let's take Warp Charge. So Warp Charge's whole thing is that it lowers the volts but increases the amps. So again, lowers the force, lowers the pressure, and increases the amount of electricity. Now what this effectively does, again, take your phone and it's going into a charger. Now what this effectively does is keeps all of the hard work inside of the charger itself. That's where all the heat builds up. That way, it keeps your phone nice and cool. All the heat is happening in the charging brick. Now, the trade-off to this, of course, is that you need bigger, beefier, certified cables to carry that larger amount of electricity, that higher amperage. So that's just one example, but that's why you would need a special cable and a special charger for Warp Charge. Now, let's take Apple, for example. Apple uses something called Trickle Charge. Actually, a lot of phones use this, but Apple, I think, is the only one that calls it Trickle Charge. And what Trickle Charge does is, imagine this is your phone's charge, and let's say this is 100% charged, and this is 0% charged, right? Well, your phone's charging fast, but around the 80% mark, your phone's charge, it's going to slow down significantly. This keeps fast charging safe. It keeps the battery healthy for a longer period of time. This is also why Apple markets their charging as 50% charge in 20 minutes instead of the also true fact of 100% charge in 80 minutes. Yeah. The point is, fast charging is not bad for your phone. Technology has gotten to a point recently where you as the consumer can have all the convenience of fast charging without having to think about it. Now sure, technically if you never ever use fast charging, you might see a little bit longer battery life, like battery health over time. But in my opinion, the difference is negligible, especially because you're trading off the incredible convenience of fast charging. Okay. Congratulations. You now have the fastest charger on the block. Guys, do me a favor, send this video to anybody you know who's still using a 5-watt USB-A charger. They need to change their ways. That's all I got. Have a nice day.